Hey there, this is Kevin Pascal, and you're tuned in to the Hinted Neuron podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, you will hear me talk with Nkechi or Chichi. And we got to talk about the sex culture in Nigeria. We talked about the sexual repressions in Nigeria, a common myth about sex, and so many other things, in that area. And we talked about the dating economics in Nigeria and what the dating culture is like in Nigeria. This was one uncomfortable conversation, although it was so fun. I'm glad we had it. And episode is not safe for work, by the way. So if you are with children, I guess you better use headphones or something. And one more thing, I had a little bit of audio problem. So there might be places where you get, 10 to 20 seconds of scratchy audio, which doesn't last. It's just, I think that would happen like just 5 times during the podcast. I'm so sorry that happened, and I hope you pardon me for that. But the content of this episode is what more than that small fault. So yeah, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review with 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Also share this episode, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't forget to contact me on Twitter or Instagram at Hinted Neuron. And now, here's my conversation with Chichi. So, I'm here with Nkechi, and we've been exchanging a couple of texts and voice notes. We're talking about some very, very important topics, and we decided to schedule a talk. So I'm here with her, and maybe she should just introduce herself for a bit, so you guys get to know her.
Supposed to say? I don't think they're going to see me on the road and be like, oh, you fit into the description of what I just heard a few minutes ago. So what am I supposed to say? The only thing I can say so far so good is, hi, I'm Chichi, and I'm human. That's it.
We are all humans too. So one of like the very good starting points, I mean, one of the things we were talking about mostly was like the sexual repressions in Nigeria and how they shame people for certain things, especially women and girls. So we were on about that topic, and we're talking because I think we are mostly talking about we are talking about it in 2 ways. We're talking about it from a religious context. How if they say you do this certain thing or you do this, you're going to hellfire, and we are talking about it from a religious context and all this. I discovered that is like because I've had these kind of conversations with other people, and they are quite interested in this talk. So I say, chill, why not do it with Nkechi? And so we are here right now. So one of the good starting points is because when we talked, you said you start a podcast. So I guess this is like a warm up for some of the kind of conversations you have.
You should start something like this, and I'm like, I don't think I know how to run it. That's it. Probably a warm up, yes, if I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So, what do you think? I mean, growing up in Nigeria and seeing your own life dynamic. Maybe you should use yourself as a model example for our talk. Your own life dynamic. When did you start having this change of past? Because I know you might have been very quite conservative about sexual issues in your life. Because I mean, that was like definitely every Nigerian child or something. So when did you now start having this change of thought that, I mean, why do I have to follow this golden rule? Who made these rules? Why do I have to stick to them?
Okay, growing up, I think we were one of those kids, or the 90s kids generally, you are always watching movies that, the storyline is basically a girl that, her parents have warned not to indulge in sexual activities. And eventually she does. Either she's been thrown out, disgraced, or what's it called? She goes into the illegal way of getting the child out, and she ends up dying. So the moral lesson for all those storylines is don't have sex. Never ever talking about, their protective measures that you can take if you're still going to have sex or not, or maybe something happened and you did have a child. Well, there are safer methods to use to, like, you know, give the option of, I don't want this baby. They never say that. It's always don't have sex. You're growing up, girl first sees her period and they're like, oh yeah. So you've gotten to the stage where if a boy touches you, you're getting pregnant. You don't understand shit, but it's just okay. I was told not to have sex. Boys, don't touch me, please. But I think as kids generally, or as teenagers, you get to the point where you want to explore. It starts with, I have a feeling I want to kiss this guy. Maybe because you've been watching a lot of Disney and
Yeah, definitely.
so it's like, I definitely want to kiss this guy. Maybe just a little peck. And then you decide to explore. Oh, that seems nice. And they're like, but so far we're not like indulging in anything. I'm not going to get pregnant or anything. It's just a kiss.
Yeah.
And then you choose, okay, let's do one or two things. Obviously behind your parents, like back. And things slowly builds up until you just get to the point where it's like, okay. I think I have been sexually educated enough to know what I'm supposed to do in order to prevent the whole pregnancy scare. And more, it's like, it's not all of us that will follow this rule.
So one of my friends the other day, he was saying something that we as human beings, we are sexual beings, and we now want to live our whole lives in denial because of certain rules that we could control certain things. I'm not saying that for somebody now who is growing up or anything, that maybe even a grown up or an adult, that they should go out in the wild and, but I feel like there should be balance in human life. Balance in human life is maybe we should start to tell kids that this is just like this thing you feel is normal and is the correct thing to feel. It means you are human, first of all. It means your brain and everything is working. Okay. You get? So this thing you're feeling is normal. So if you want to indulge in it, fine, good. But just know that maybe, just as you would have sugar and you can't take a bowl of sugar at once, is just the way, I guess, whatever. But I don't want to go deep into that. And I was talking about, I don't know if you are quite interested in talking about topics around masturbation, because there are myth about masturbation for I think boys and girls in general. I mean, if you ask a normal girl now, because I asked a girl before, do you masturbate? She told me, is there anything like, do females masturbate? And this is a grown-up 21-year-old. This is a grown-up 21-year-old who does not know that females masturbate. I was surprised, first of all. Maybe it was a lie. Maybe it was not. You get, because how would a 21-year-old not know that females masturbate? And there's certain myth about masturbation that for guys, maybe you start to grow blind, hair will start to grow on your hand, you start to this, you start to that. Now, I wanted to talk about that because as far as I'm concerned, masturbation is one of the safest way to have sex.
It's not.
Masturbation is basically sex with yourself, and it's one of the safest ways to have sex. Because as far as I'm concerned, people will say you could have blowjobs, hand job, or whatever, that those are safe. And that those are safe sex, but it's not completely safe. I mean, you could get bacteria or whatever the fuck there is to get from people. So, and as far as I'm concerned, if you masturbate, is a very safe way to have sex. Now, this is a very good disclaimer for anybody listening. This is not sexual advice. This is just a conversation. This does not mean that even the people talking are indulging in whatever. This is just a conversation between two people. But I want to hear your own thoughts on that. Because I especially the myth from the female side. I've never heard this myth of what female masturbation can cause. I've said some of what they've said male masturbation might have caused.
I've not heard so myself. I And the lady asks, the lady saying or claiming that do females masturbate?
She said
Yes.
she only thought boys masturbate.
Oh, wow. 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 Okay. Well, see, trust me, you find out that you would have a lot of pleasure from your own self than what someone else will give to you sometimes. Sometimes. I'm not saying all the time. Sometimes. And yes, females do. I think we might even do it worse than the guys. Just that we don't talk about it. You don't hear us say, oh, she's wanking. Mostly the guys. He's wanking. We're coded. It's just a female thing. Maybe you do it at your own convenience or at your own pleasure.
I now think that maybe the culture of self pleasure, that self pleasure used to be seen as a bad thing before. Now, because everybody sells their dildos and masturbators online, right? Dildos and vibrators now online. Yeah, so I said I wanted to get some insights from you.
You had to really throw it at me. Okay, you stopped at the religion aspect. Well, what would I say about masturbation? The Bible condemns it. I'm going to sound like my pastor. The Bible definitely condemns it. Not agreeing with it. And females, don't know. See, generally, I don't think some people realize that some women are supposed to feel pleasure during sexual experiences. That's why it's still a shocker to some, what's it called? Some ladies that other ladies, or to some guys. Okay, that's why it's still a shocker to some guys or ladies that girls breathe. We also want sexual pleasure, even though our peak of sexual pleasure doesn't help us in the whole fertilization or childbearing. We still want it. So the whole ideas of dildos and what's it called?
Yeah, definitely.
It's to help the men that don't know what they are doing figure it out.
I thought it was because there's this thing that people say that if you use a dildo or a vibrator, then you will not feel as much sensual pleasure when you are with a guy.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That's definitely not true.
That's one of this myth that I want us to talk about, a lot of this myth, because this is maybe sort of, I don't like to use the word education. These people come here to get insights. I like to use the word insights. So that they will know that when you masturbate, you don't go blind. That's a pseudoscience. Hair will not start growing on your hand. That's pseudoscience. You will not start having some erectile dysfunction. That's pseudoscience. And I don't know, and these things are so much on the internet these days.
I just think it's the society trying to discourage it because we all know, we low-key all know the truth because we all do it. So we'll just go, okay. Why did you give that?
No, that's the same reaction that everybody will give.
It's the truth. Everyone acts like, oh, we don't do that here, but we know what's going on. Okay, Christ knows what's going on behind the closed curtain. So when we Google search those things and we see it, you're like, look in your head, you're like, oh, I've not gone blind. I've been doing this for a very long time, so no, you're lying.
No. So for me, I don't know. I don't know because I think boys start exploring themselves, not like themselves, start becoming aware of. I'll use myself as a case study. I hate using myself as a model example of anything, but this is me trying to be free. Yeah. When I started noticing erections in my own self, I used to go and sit down one side. I'll separate myself from people. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me right now? I because normally I grew up thinking erections were a sin. I thought it's because I was lusting after someone, because you first know that lust is a sin. And then you have erections. It means you are kind of drawn to somebody. It means you are lusting after someone. Then you are sinning against God. So what the pastor told us then was that we should start reciting Psalm 91 or something 3 when we have erections. And this is like what a lot of people face. This is like the kind of wrong information. There's no truth to them. Like, this is what you should do. This is what you're experiencing. They just try to like shield you and shall make you feel like what you're experiencing is the wrong thing.
And that's where they all get it wrong. They try to make us feel like our normal body system or our normal body activities is wrong. If you don't have an erection as a guy, as young as, there's a problem with you.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely.
they should, I don't think our parents sexually educate us. We eventually learn most of the things we
There,
learn.
in fact, there's not properly. There is nothing like good sex education in Nigeria.
basically
It's just
access.
non-existent. It's just fear. They just put fear in your mind. So yeah, I mean, abstinence is good for people who want to abstain, but they just put that fear in. There is no correct education because it was. I think one thing I'm glad for now is the internet. Anybody could sit down with 1 hour, read a few blogs, watch a few YouTube videos, get educated on what is proper and what is correct in terms of anything sexual or whatever.
I remember struggling to grasp the concept of condoms for a better part of my, I think, junior secondary school because I knew people used condoms, but I didn't understand how like they work. I knew, oh, he's supposed to take it over his
Penis.
whatever you call that. Christ, I'm trying to be so that my father will not end up sending me out of his house. So he's supposed to get all those over his penis, like he would say. Daddy, I'm copying somebody. I'm not saying. But I just didn't get how everything was just supposed to go into a woman. Maybe because I hadn't even seen what a condom actually looked like. I knew what the pack looked like because I could read, but I didn't know the content. So, praise Christ for sexual exploration. I was able to get a few details properly confirmed. And that's fine. In fact, when I remember when I was in JS1, I had this friend, her mom was a nurse, and she pulled me aside one day and told me, do you know what happened today or last night rather? My mom taught me how to put on a condom. Like a male condom. And I was like, wow. I didn't know what I felt then, but I think I think as a JS1 I should be 10, 11. So I didn't know what I felt at that point. But I think growing up, I realized what I felt then. I felt envious because the only thing my mom would pull me as I didn't grow up with my parents per se, but my mom, like my mother figure at that point, the only thing she would pull me aside at night to tell me is, I know guys are always following you. You're not supposed to answer.
Yeah.
Not, well, people are going to start getting, you're going to start getting sexually, interested in a lot of things. You should just be careful. No, she was basically planting fear. The fear of getting pregnant. Not even the fear of STDs or STI, because I think those are even worse than pregnancy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just the fear of getting pregnant. That's the only, statement you get putting in my head. If you get pregnant, your whole future is scattered. Well, we've grown out of that shell.
Before we go on, because I'm still there's still many things to talk about in this topic. You mentioned pregnancy. What do you think about pro-choice and pro-life movement?
My body, my choice.
Yeah.
if you want to, I don't know, keep it. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
If you don't, choose the safe one.
Yeah. So right now in Nigeria, there are no laws for pro-choice people. So it means if, as a female person, you walk into a clinic or maybe a pharmacy or whatever, and you want to do an abortion, they might turn you down.
Not might. Most likely will. Except if it's in a life-threatening situation where they have to obviously go through a DNC. Just evacuate you home, maybe fetus because there's an abnormality, growth or something. You just have to evacuate the whole thing out. But no, we don't have any laws. That's one of the things they should be working towards. I don't see abortion as a crime. What if I'm not financially stable or mentally stable to raise a child? Why would make that child suffer when I can just choose not to even have it at all? So there are a lot of things we need to address. And another thing I think we should address is the idea of, yes, sexual orientations. Please tell our women that, okay, it's not just male condoms we have, they are also female condoms. You know, they are very scarce and more expensive than the male.
Are you serious?
Yes, they are. And another thing is the whole post pill thing. I think we are so used to the idea of, oh, if I'm going to have a mix up, just take this post pill and the rest. I think your birth control should be made aware to everyone.
Post pill. What do you mean? Post pill is post-tinol that people know, but there are other.
The emergency.
So post pills work even after you have maybe unsafe sex.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point. Yeah,
Yeah.
post. So there's pre. Because I read about that a certain time. Sorry, maybe I'm prying into human issues. I used to I read about that there are some pills that women take, birth control pills, that they have to take it the same time every day. That if they miss it by a slight difference, that it's not going to work again.
If you miss it by a slight difference, it's not that it's not going to work. No, that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
If you miss it, just take it as soon as you realize you missed. But you know at that point somehow, because everything has to do with their hormonal pills.
Mm-hmm.
So everything has to do with hormones. So you actually have to take it every day and say that. But when you realize you missed it, please just take it. But you have to be very conscious. Use other protection methods if you realize you missed that pill that day. For safety reasons.
Yeah. And I feel like people don't know this. People know, but they tend to look at, their side effect. And because for me, I'm this person who, as far as I'm concerned, I trust science. If there's anything that I trust very well in this life, at least I know it, because science works. Science has taken people to the moon. So that one works. I know it. I've confirmed it with my eye. If in Nigerian this thing, with my koro eye, I've seen that it works. That science works. But like, how do you now tend to educate people that want to focus all their might on the side effects? Because any drug, as far as I'm concerned, has a side effect. Paracetamol you take has a side effect. Even the smallest of drugs have side effect. But people don't know that. They just feel because they say this one has side effect, then you should not now take it.
I think the first thing they should do is erase the idea that sex is a bad thing from their head, so that they would ignore the whole fear, because I have a feeling they are scared. So they would ignore the whole fear of the side effect thing. Because like you said, even the smallest drugs you take would have their own side effects. So because they feel they are doing something bad, that's having sex, which isn't bad, it's quite normal. So because they feel they are doing something bad, which isn't so, they feel the side effect to be more obvious on their end.
Yeah.
And no.
And that's a problem. Because for me, when I talk about like all the societal things, I don't give a fuck about what has happened or what's happened. I like to think about, in the long run, how do we change that? Do you still think, because I know that there are people even right now, they are still not as enlightened as you think people would be. Like some people still think like they were born in the in the 60s or in the 80s. Like, I mean, for this generation of people, we would say we are enlightened, but that's a lie if we look at it deep. Like, if we just have only 40% people who feel okay, they've read and they trust science and they are quite enlightened enough, and we now have a larger proportion of people who still have this archaic mindset, it means they will still produce more children who believe what they believe.
So where do we start from? If we're going to start from that.
And I feel things like, what solves all these things is conversations like this. Uncomfortable conversations like this. Conversation is quite uncomfortable because it just feels weird. It feels weird, but it's necessary.
It's necessary, yeah. It's not just the children who have to have this conversation with, because I think we've been tackling it just from the the teenagers and youth perspective, we've forgotten that in a way they are always controlled by their parents.
Yeah.
I think we also have to educate them because some of our parents who don't know, they have no idea about these things that we know about. So if we are going to be educating the children, we might as well start educating the grown up because yes, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. You know, I used to think that it's just like you can't change a person's politics or you can't change a person's religion just like that with just mere talk. In fact, any kind of talk you are going to do to someone based on politics or religion is going to strengthen their beliefs. I mean, you can't, except they figure it out for themselves.
But at least you are sowing a seed. Like you are sowing the seed, like maybe, like the seed of maybe in their hearts. No, sometimes you feel some people's words don't get to you because you have a certain belief. But trust me, the fact that you are thinking about it over and over again means there's a seed of maybe somewhere in your heart. So it might not get so far. It might not. We don't know how deeply rooted the person's belief is, but you've thrown that idea in their head somewhere. It won't get lost because obviously they'll keep debating about it over and over again, but it's there. It's there. So at least they have the idea that, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like. Then you tell the younger ones, the people growing up that, all right, your parents seem to have a very blurry image of what I'm talking about because they've refused to, print it out properly. But I'm going to tell you because you're young and you would want to capture it better. So I'll tell you this. At least you are reducing or you're cutting away those deep-rooted beliefs of if you have sex, you're going to hellfire. Because I don't think Christ is that wicked.
Is the if you can even talk about not being wicked because you mean all the old problems in the world, cancer, global warming, all the fuck.
Sex.
Like why do you think my God is more interested in what I do when I'm naked?
Than what someone else is doing when he's dressed and is killing another person. There are other huge things out there, not
you get. So that's and I don't want to I don't know if you are comfortable with talking about religion, which is because my last podcast was about that because some of the way we condition people in society and the way they tend to think about certain things is just based off of religion, and that's why we have so much sexual repression. And I don't blame people who raise children like that. I mean, I was raised like that. Because if you tend to think about it, how else do you want to tell a child that this is bad? Just tell him that you are going to die. So because imagine now we are adults, we could maybe think for ourselves and see consequences or whatever, foresee consequences of each action. But as a child growing up, how do you want to say right now don't have sex because it's quiet until you have a way to be safe about it?
Just to the Nigerian perspective, because if I think about the whites, if you think about it that way, people in the more advanced countries, how do they educate their children? Even though they still do the same things that we do, how do they educate their children and they still have lower cases of STDs and STI being transmitted? Lower cases of
sure?
Maybe I've not looked at statistics per se. So they still have these cases, maybe at a lower rate, but at least they are aware. It's best not to be ignorant. Imagine you contacting something that you would have prevented if only you were told what to do the right way. I think that would hurt more. It genuinely would. So if the advanced countries can do it and well, we are all strong-headed, what you're going to do it regardless of. But they brought me up not having sex. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Representing my ancestors. But
so, I was on another podcast one time and somebody was asking me, Kelvin, what's the dating scene like in Nigeria? And what I told him was that I told him what was on my mind because he's an American guy. I wanted to get the sense of how people date here. Okay, I just told him the normal stuff we see on Twitter that as maybe a youth or teenager, you probably should not be dating if you don't have money. And it's crazy, it's crazy in the
Yeah,
sense that as a guy, you are expected to have all these things as a young man to just maybe have another young partner who is female. Like, I mean, let's say straight people. Sorry, maybe for heterosexual relationships. So I'm talking based on heterosexual relationships now, especially because I know that maybe this kind of stuff will not necessarily happen in homosexual relationships. So for heterosexual relationships, as maybe a guy, you have to be quite comfortable a certain way before you could maybe have that confidence to want to date a girl. So what do you think about that? Because that's what we see.
It's not our fault. I won't blame us. I'm going to put the blame on our parents.
Why?
Because back then, at our age, they like made a name for themselves. Either they were working in some kind of company and they were comfortable at that age. Like at the age where we are still in school struggling with our own self. Some of them were not even so focused on school. Some of them had businesses they were running. They had their own cars. They were so comfortable. And the whole idea of trying to woo a woman is, okay, I'm going to show you that I can take care of you enough. And you can be able to, lean your problems, or I'll be the extra shoulder to carry your problems for you. And slowly we've gotten so used to that idea. So now this our generation that feels like turning things all around all of a sudden, and they are going all if you don't have money, if the guy does not have money and the woman does not have money, you're not ready for a relationship. Now I'm unemployed, so how on earth? But I want to have a relationship. So are you telling me, as an unemployed student that I am, I'm not supposed to be dating? That's basically not fair.
Yeah, but what I think the sense that people argue from, like people complain about, is that people, like in some heterosexual relationships, one party puts more of their problems on another party.
Yeah, because the other party wants to carry it now. Is it us that sends you?
So I have this theory. Now, economical growth and technological progress has made money to be like the meaning of life for almost everybody. So you could basically kind of say that in a sense, money is kind of the meaning of life, because if you don't have money, you probably don't have life like that. So now, in the olden days, before technological and economical progress, like a guy wants to marry a lady, he's a regular hunter. He used to take meat to his mommy's or to the in-laws' house. So that in the olden days, it was just for the guy to prove that he could protect and provide meat. And they would and me chesting cane during introduction, because there are some cultures that flog. Me chesting cane, me proving some worth, me being the best hunter in the communities, me saying I can protect your daughter and I can provide for her meat or something. I could go into the bush and maybe I'm a good farmer. These different skills before it was what it was before money. Okay, I feel it's the same thing.
It's the same, exactly.
So that was the kind of mental model I have, that is that now it's just money can now give you all those protection and provision that you felt in the olden days. Just like a girl, a girl will want to marry the best farmer, the best hunter, or the best any kind of thing, because just so far you can protect and provide. So that's why I feel, okay, it has always been like that. That we now, because when adults say this your generation is only money they are concerned about, I feel it's like the same thing. It's just like now it's just the thing now that value, like the value has changed. Money is now the thing that is of value. What do you think about that?
That's you've basically said it all. So you've heard what Kelvin has to say. So please, in case you meet me out there, don't give me meats. Obviously, money can provide the protection and the what's it called? The needs that a woman kind of requires from a guy to know, okay, oh, this person seems a little bit serious. Because you said the whole perspective or idea of value has changed.
Yeah.
It has changed from the regular, he's coming to greet my parents and he's dropping a keg of palm wine to, if you're coming to greet my parents, please bring a bag of rice, don't stress us.
Yeah.
Or bring money. So that's it. So for them to bring up their own idea of we are not supposed to be thinking that way, we are supposed to just sit down on love. Our parents never sat down on love as they never saw love as the first thing.
Are you sure?
I'm certain. I don't know about yours, but mine, I'm pretty sure they don't.
I don't know. I'm talking based on depictions from Nigerian movies. You're probably more traditional than I am, so maybe you know what's up in terms of how it used to be. Very well.
How we used to be, okay. Well, in my own culture, a man sees a woman he likes, goes to her parents' house, obviously drops one or two things to show I can provide, I can make provision. So your daughter is not coming to my house to suffer. And if the parents feel content, maybe after making research on the rest, they bring out this thing called bride price. Even though in some part of my tribe, the whole thing seems very outrageous, but I think the true test is just to know you can genuinely take care of our daughter. We are not selling her off. The whole idea is not selling her off, but to know that this man is capable enough. So I don't think they look at love. Love was never the first thing.
Okay, now I like the fact that you brought up bride price because it's something that has been that I like to talk about. It's something I used to say, what's the fucking need for bride price? Because bride price is like, this is a price I'm putting on your head for your data. Because people used to say it shows that you are paying the parents for raising the girl. And then I'll now tell, because I've had this debate so many times with my mom, like, what is the need for bride price? They'll say, isn't like the parent raised the girl? And I'll say, they raised me too, right? They spent money on me. So I probably don't know. Maybe it's more expensive to raise a girl than a boy, but I don't know how comparable that is. I've not sat down and looked at any statistics. But do you feel like, because from what I'm getting from you is that bride price is just saying I'm capable of taking care of your daughter?
That's how I see it from my own perspective. My father would not. Well, none of my siblings have gotten married yet, so I don't know how it is. But at least from the few relatives that I've seen, I didn't see the bride price as you are paying us for raising her. It's like, okay, it seems this man can provide. Because in a case whereby you don't get everything on that list, they're not going to kill you. The least they will do is try to adjust it as much as possible to your own pocket. That's where I'm from. That's what they will do. So it's saying, okay, first, like I've said before, our daughter is not coming to your house to suffer because, as you can see, she's well fed. We are not telling you we are hungry. Just make sure you provide the protection and the protection and the needs she needs. Love is not a thing.
Now you are probably wrong there when you say love is not a thing. Now that's just one.
I don't think my dad would ask if someone was to come to meet him that he's ready to marry. My dad would not ask me, do I love the person?
Yeah.
Can you provide for my daughter?
Now, the second thought is, because I feel this is feeding off of, sorry to sound woke, this is feeding off of the patriarchy.
I genuinely reserve my comment.
So this is, when you say, can you provide for my daughter, it's as if companionship, heterosexual companionship is in this place where one person is taking care and provide. Do you feel that is feeding off of the patriarchy, or that is how it's supposed to be naturally?
Naturally, that's how it's supposed to be. It's the women or the women leaning on the guys. But I think with the way culture and the whole world as large has evolved, we found out that the help doesn't just come from the guy alone. The woman has to work towards it. But if we are going to talk from basic, I think from all the Nigerian movies we are very used to watching, you see that it's the man that goes to hunt, you don't see the woman saying, let me assist you. It's basically you bring whatever skill you've gotten for the day, and she comes home, you come home with it and she just cooks. That's it. But as time goes on, it's not just the man that is hunting again. If the man is hunting, the woman is either going to the farm to help or she's helping your husband doing the farm work or something. So if we are going to start from the beginning of time, that's how it has been.
If we now say that is how it is, but now a lot of women complain that because of how it was, they were denied of certain things. Now, I don't know if you are comfortable with this conversation because this is like going to we are now going to some woke circles of oppression and inequality.
The whole gender thing. Right?
Yeah.
So, like I've said earlier, the whole world has evolved. If you guys are now ready to accept our help, you might as well look at us as equals. It's not like we are sitting down in the house and waiting for you to get everything done. We're also doing it exactly the same way you would do it. If a man is leaving as early as 5, the woman also has to be at work and she has to leave at the same time. So we don't see a reason why when it now comes to respect, they would put more respect on the man than they would for us. If it was a situation where I'm sitting down in the house and you are coming to meet me there every day, that's fine. I understand why you would give him respect because he seems like he's the one working as harder than I am. But we are sharing the work equally, so you might as well just throw the respect to equally on like the two sides. That's it.
Do you feel like now in heterosexual relationships within partners in Nigeria, do you think the dynamic would shift permanently to the woke side and not lean so much on how we were cultural wise?
We still have a very long way to go to shift permanently to that woke side. The fight didn't start now. It didn't start from our woke generation. It has been going on longer than we thought it has been. At least, but maybe back then the voices were just very small, but now they are being more expressive of themselves and we are hearing it louder. Maybe, but we still have a very, very long way to go because there are still some things I accept and there are some things that I would not. I'll genuinely not accept.
Like,
I don't know. I would pick being pampered and staying in my house every day and going out to work.
Yeah.
But I would not overlook the whole respect.
Now that what you said is very important because I feel like this idea of choice is important. Just like how we are pro-choice we feel like people should do what makes them happy. Just so far, it does not affect the other person negatively. Now, but what you said now, if you say what you said in some certain circles, you will be termed as reinforcing the patriarchy. You will be termed as someone who reinforces the patriarchy. But I know people would understand that because there is different women want different things. But I feel what people do now is like this. I think like this conversation is nuanced enough to consider certain things. Because if you are on Twitter now, people would say that this is how oppression, that you allow yourself to be oppressed like that to sit down and not have a career like the man, that is the same way your mothers or your this thing that what are you going to tell your daughter that this is the same thing your daughter is going to do?
I'm going to tell my daughter to make her own choice. If she wants to go out there and fend for herself and be the feminist that she would want to be, that's fine. I wouldn't discourage her and tell her a woman is supposed to just sit at home and not work. No. I would always give her the opportunity to make her choice. I would clearly pick sitting at home and relaxing over working.
Yeah.
And that's my choice. My mom didn't train me to be that type of person. She has always trained me to be go out there, work for your own money and the rest. But if I had an opportunity to pick working for my own money and relaxing and still getting his money, our money, I'm going to pick our money over working. But I won't train my daughter to be my person. She has to make her own choices. So if I'm going to be supporting the patriarchy thing, I don't have any regrets there. I genuinely don't know. I don't have any reason. Full support, at least in this second.
Yeah.
But there are certain cases.
So one of the things I'm really interested in talking about now because is we are talking about an hypothetical marriage scenario right now. And now we now come to like dating scene in Nigeria again. Now, in this sense that because still on money or and dating. Now, probably this I'm using heterosexual relationships here because this is like a model of what really happens, I guess. So now we've always seen this thing. There's this thing that they call it SMV. This guy wrote a thread on Twitter one time explaining sexual market value or whatever. I've forgotten the exact thing in that thread, but the basic ideas were a girl growing up and a guy growing up the same age. Now they are the same age, and this guy likes this girl, but the girl will probably turn him down and go for an older boy or an older man. Now, few years later, when this guy is now big or maybe rich or medium, at least he's well to do in a certain sense, he will now go for older girls, far younger than he is, because when he was growing up, his age mates did not date him. And then, since there's this thing called sexual market value, this is me saying, I'm not well informed about this. Please watch counsel me about this. Now that, because this is very annoying to some way, you now say that the woman has peaked. So she has peaked at a certain level. She's now hurrying to settle down. So she will now be looking for guys that were her age that she did not date that time because she wants to marry.
Is that how you feel?
That I'm telling you what I saw on Twitter. This is not what I feel. This is something I want to talk about. I'll tell you what I think, but this is something that people were saying. I'm trying to explain that Twitter thread to you. What happened in that conversation on Twitter? So and it's called sexual market value, right? People were saying so, and they will now say that the sexual market value of the woman is almost going down. That so she's hurrying to like get married so that because she's about to like reach her peak or something. So but now the guys that are these guys that are age mates would prefer all younger girls than to date those women or girls or whatever. Is this false or is this true?
True.
True, but or
Yes,
false, but
true, and there's no but.
yeah.
So it all starts from when she's younger, and then they tell her, "You and that boy, you are age mates. That's all right, but you are more mature than he is. Why? Because they feel you understand things better than the boy. A boy at 13, they'll think the only thing in his head is most likely games.
Is that a societal
And
myth or a
yes, it
reality?
is, because I feel they're still of the same age, mindset wise. I don't see a reason why you tell a 13-year-old girl that she's older than a 30-year-old mentally because of the way she's supposed to think. It just starts off like that, and it's sad. It's sad that at 13-year-old, I should not be looking at my own fellow 13-year-old. I should be looking at the 16-year-old, which is just, I don't know. You see why I said we need to like change a lot of things from our parents, because they're so messed up here.
Yeah.
We are so messed up. And that's why they tell her by age 27, if you're not married or more, you have passed, you have no use again, your biology clock is almost done. Your age mates obviously cannot come and find you. It's either you date the married men or you settle for someone who has already been married before. So it's not a myth. That's what goes on and on in our society, and we practically have no stop for it, because the mistake is still coming from the young ones. The new set of adolescents growing up to adults, they have that idea. The people going from their double digits to being adolescents again, they have those same ideas. So it's practically there's no change in the whole course. It's just and say at age 13, oh, you are older than this guy. You are not supposed to be playing with all those type of, I don't know. It's generally messed up. Because, and there's nothing we can do about it until our parents tell us what to do. I don't,
You said there's nothing we can do about it
there's
until our
nothing,
parents
because
tell
we've
us.
grown up.
Because I feel you as a person now, you see the flaws in society. You now know the right thing, but I feel you are now you still be reluctant to change the direction in which things will go, because you feel, okay, this is how it has been. Let it just continue like that.
Will I change it with my own kids?
I guess I feel when we start talking about societal change, because people complain a lot. People complain. I hate complaints, but people complain a lot about things happening in society. When you talk about things like this, even oppression in general, misogyny, this, that, and we now tend to forget that it is the little things in the little places, like you having a child, changing that child's mindset to be the right person. Just, each of us, we in the families we are growing up in, your sister, your brother, your children, all those kind of things, that this is how real change will come about, not complaining on Twitter or trying to change people via Twitter or trying to change people by canceling them. I think we tend to forget all those things.
Think about, I'm trying to think about my kids. If I tell them, so at this age, you are supposed to be, you and him, you're supposed to be thinking, and like I tell them a certain thing rather at home, and they go out there and hear something different consistently. It's going to be one battling opinion in their head.
I for a small part, I would say that is wrong. Do you know that parents have much more influence on how kids grow up? Political views, religious views, and so many other kind of views, that I started to see that there are some things that my mom told me that I never doubted. Maybe this, like, maybe don't use rubber spoon to do this one, but you never doubted. You don't even know why. Okay, don't use rubber spoon to do this. But it was not when you now maybe grew up. You're like, oh, why was she even telling me
No,
this?
but at the same time, there's something called peer pressure. What if someone out there tells me, people out there tells me, doesn't matter?
Mm-hmm.
Does it? So it kind of cancels out sometimes what your parents say. If just one person is telling you yes, and 3,000 people out there are telling you no, I think in a way the 3,000 would cancel out the 1 yes you would hear. So what if I tell my children that, I try as much as possible to tell them that, but the society doesn't give them the opportunity to see why I'm telling them that? It makes no difference. I can start for my children. What if other people don't?
Yeah, and I feel this mindset is the same mindset people take in politics when it comes to voting. And I think this is a small critique for everybody now. We tend to forget that little drops of water make the mighty ocean.
How many drops of water are you going to accumulate for your mighty ocean?
We tend to forget that little drops of water make like that. And when it comes to voting, that you'll say that, oh, my votes don't count, that they will still rake it, that my one vote don't count. I feel like, okay, because we know the right thing to do, but we don't do it because we just believe that on the grand scale, this small thing I'm doing doesn't really matter. It can't match the bad in the world.
Maybe so, because we don't ever see it make a difference. If one person chooses to do something differently, we don't see how it makes a difference sometimes. So that's why sometimes we don't even believe that your little drops of water will create something big at the end. You just don't bother. It's not going to make a difference. I can only try. I can try my best. But if every other person doesn't try, how am I supposed to change the whole narrative?
So let me go back to the thing about dating and between men and women. Now, for young people, just like I was saying about the dynamic of girl not dating her age mate and waiting. So, do you just feel is a societal thing that people are just saying, is that a natural thing or a societal thing? We just condition girls to believe that they are smarter than boys at a younger age, like even when they are the same age with a boy. I feel is social conditioning.
Well, yeah, maybe. And to the girl too. Because sometimes at that age, she feels she has been exposed to more things than the guys. At a certain age, a woman feels maybe okay. At the young age when most of us start seeing periods and we know what sexuality generally is about, you boys have no clue what's going on. You are
Are you
more
sure?
focused. Sometimes you people don't. You people don't. Maybe you do, but you don't even show it. You act so.
I feel okay. Okay. Now back to when I was using myself as a model example. When I started seeing, when I started noticing I had erections that I will hide. Mm, the thing is, for me, I don't know when does on average when does a girl start seeing her period?
I think 12, 13 years. That was then, but now I'm having 10 years.
Yes. So you know the thing. If you ask any guy within the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, they probably Google the image of a naked woman.
True, true. I think what is narrowing my whole narrative is the fact that I'm seeing it from a woman's
Yeah, yeah,
angle.
yeah. And I think it's good that maybe you are saying it from your own perspective, and I'm saying it from how a guy started developing thoughts. Like a guy at the age of 13, people would, because if you tell some guys, they will tell you that they had that first maybe Google experience, just start googling random shit. Like, what if you now Google down how does this look like in a woman, or how does that
That's what
look
you
like
boys
in
do.
I
I thought you guys were more focused on wrestling or something.
no, no, no. I think I think boys don't necessarily show all those things. I mean, that's boys are. I mean, it's not like you kind of sexuality is kind of this thing you like advertise now. I mean, it's what people in their own free spare time in one small place start, and it's probably something you will never talk about to anybody. But you will now post a meme. Remember that first time you Googled a naked woman, and you know that almost everybody could relate to that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So I think that's that kind of transition. But I don't know. Do you feel like, because if I see conversations on Twitter about sex and sexuality, do you feel like, because women talk like they don't like sex. A lot of women talk like this thing, no, 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 don't bring her close to me. Why is it like that?
See, I think
That they make it seem like it's men that are just a shower. They just like put their stuff in anything on that skirt.
no, because men themselves judge us and women ourselves, we judge ourselves. So the thing is, once you openly or freely talk about sex, they will tag you most likely a whore. You can't focus on anything other than sex. But you guys, if you talk about it, it seems like a norm. Oh, he's talking about sex again. But as a lady, they feel you should be pure. You shouldn't think about things like that. But which is surprising because definitely the boys are having sex with somebody and it's not themselves. No, it's the truth. So when that's why when some guys hear that women are talking about sex, they are surprised. Oh wow, she's talking about sex. Like, boy, you're having sex with somebody and it's not a man. So why can't I talk about it? You people might, I don't know about how other boys would do it, but you people might talk to yourself, within
Like kiss and
yourself.
tell.
We ladies don't do so much of that
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
believe everyone is supposed to be holy. They
yeah.
see they see ladies as the symbol of holiness. You are not supposed to indulge yourself in anything that isn't clean because
Mm.
according to them, men don't like things that are used.
Hmm.
They always like it pure just for them. So they would rather not talk about it. So to give the guy the idea
That they are good
that they are good,
and
they've
clean.
not been used.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of conditioning that a lot of people grow up with. Because and I know that a lot of girls probably lie to guys. Maybe after they've dated a few guys, they will probably lie to maybe another guy. Just maybe not lie. Just try to tend to reduce the volume of maybe their sexual history, like make it seem like okay, they've not been too out there.
How about we trying this new thing since our generation seems to be going into the woke aspect?
Yeah.
We trying this new thing of not talking about our past sexual experiences because it will reduce. I don't see boys saying I have slept with or I've had sex with 17 different girls, which I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah, body count only comes up
with women.
That thing is not supposed to exist, in my own opinion. What the fuck is body count?
The amount of bodies that have been made upon years.
Like, it's stupid, you know?
Well, like I've said before, we are not supposed to talk about it because we are clean. We are women.
Yeah, and there was this thing that there was this conversation that came up yesterday on Twitter. I don't know. I'm referring to more conversations on Twitter, maybe because
Twitter is a place where a lot of people speak about their own opinions.
You know, someone was saying she just wished all men would die, so that she would have a free world where she could do anything, to work anytime she wants. So somebody was now saying, you know, other people were now like saying, why do we always have this belief that women are the good ones? That the men are the bad ones, that if all men can suddenly go, then we would have a better and good world. Somebody now even came again and say, straight women. That straight women are, that why would you assume that straight women are kind and caring and not predators? So, no, she was now demarcating herself as, okay, as maybe a bi or lesbian woman, that she's a good person. And we just tend to have these stupid beliefs, okay, based on gender or identity. This person is a good person because he's a woman, this is a good man, or because he's homosexual, or is this, that is a good or bad, that these homosexuals are good, straight people are bad, all these things.
I don't think being good or bad plays down on your sexuality. If you are good, you are good. If you are bad, you are bad. We've met a lot of terrible straight women. And at the same time, we might know few good or terrible bisexual or not straight women.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It doesn't play on your sexuality at all. And it's scary. I don't know why one woman would think the world would be a better place if they are just women. Women, I'm not trying to downplay my own gender, but God, there's a whole lot of negative competition amongst us. Existing in a world where it's just us, oh my God, I don't think the world would exist again.
Yeah.
Because if you've hanged out with women with different energies and like different ideas, God, you know we'll be in trouble if there's just women in the world. No. Anyone that brings in that idea has not stayed with like a couple of women at the same time. Maybe just, it doesn't even have to be boarding school, just camp, female camp. The amount of energy there.
And I used to feel like conflict within men is just based on ego. But now when you talk about, you know, within gender, like conflict within men is probably based on ego, like trying to show that you're bigger than this person. But normally, if you put guys in a place, they might not even bond just like how female bond, but they would have this mutual respect for each other. Just like when you hear chairman, boss, chief, you get everybody try to have this mutual respect with each other, and conflict only just arises when one person wants to play God.
And that's not how it is for women. It's not just one person trying to play God. It's one person showing off or claiming that they are better off than the other person. And then that's very unhygienic competition starts.
Yeah.
That's the whole ball around this women's conflict. Very unhygienic competition. Oh, this person is putting on something better than I am. What does she think? Show off. I think I can do better. And things like that. And that's how petty women's fights can be. That's like a world where there's just women. Nah. It can never work. I think that's why God created two gender for one gender to help cause peace when the other is at war.
Yeah, we've talked about sex, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about dynamics in relationships. And we've talked about, I think there's no better way to end this conversation by talking about what all this means in the aspect of life. And one of the questions I used to ask everybody before they leave is, what's the meaning of life? Or what gives your life meaning?
What gives my life meaning? What gives my life meaning? Maybe joy or growth. One of those two. I feel something cannot be called life if it's just there and it's not making change or it's not growing in any way. It's just exactly the way it is. So basically, life to me is growth. At least you are progressing from one stage to another.
Yep.
It might not be good all the time and it might not be so bad, but you are moving. You're not stuck. This, as time is progressing, so is your growth.
Yeah.
That's basically life.
So before I let you go, what was just one thing you want this audience to know? Could be based on just what you want to say or based off of our own conversation. What do you want them to know? Just one thing.
Okay. I think I would want the women to know you shouldn't be ashamed of your sexuality. Whether you are bi, straight, you shouldn't be ashamed. It isn't something to be ashamed of. The boys are not ashamed of it. So why should you? If you have any awkward questions or awkward suggestions or thoughts and you feel you can't share them, you rather keep it to yourself. Sometimes your most trusted females, you can talk to them about it. It's not something to be ashamed of. Just express yourself. The least you can get is just maybe a scornful look and that's it. On to the next until somebody with the proper answer responds.
Yeah, I think that's super amazing. I think that more women would hear that and we could begin to change the dynamics of how things play. I think this talk was super amazing. I mean, we did this talk. It was enlightening. I've been looking forward to this. I did not know it was going to be this interesting because I didn't prepare. And yeah, you're a bad motherfucker. So it was nice.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Peace.
Yeah, I'm so glad you listened to the end. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you enjoy, please leave a review with 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Also share my episodes. And, talk about it. You can tag me on Instagram or Twitter at Hinted Neuron. Let's start a conversation on Twitter. Just, tag me at Hinted Neuron and we could start a conversation there. That's it for me this week. And until then, stay curious.